What's going on? Welcome back to Fanatic Journey. So today we're going to talk to you about Ethereum Classic. I want to go over some of the current data points, go over some of the updates that's been affecting ETC, and given everything, where I see things going from here. Before I get into any of that, make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So I'm going to cap off the video with some technicals, so stay tuned for that. But right now it is at $19.21, up 0.94%. And for volume, rather low, so 17.32% down from the day prior, $106.5 million in volume. And so based on that volume, you can kind of interpret that big money isn't necessarily getting in, especially if you kind of compare that with last several weeks. But as far as ranking based on the market cap, it is number 28. And it's been kind of stuck there, or obviously give or take one or two over the last, I don't know, 6-7 months, something like that. So ETC has been getting a lot of good updates on their ecosystem. And that's something I don't normally cover on my channel. I'd more so do the technicals and just the broader aspects on what is affecting ETC and cryptocurrency. So of course, you can always go onto their website just to see a lot of the updates that they are doing. I have listened into a couple Twitter space calls, and definitely it seems pretty exciting. There's a lot of good optimism. So if you are on Twitter, highly suggest tuning in. I'm not really familiar when they are, but again, highly suggest doing that. But going over some data points that I like to looking at merchants, because when it comes down to any cryptocurrency, you want to see it ingrained. You want it to be used more and more. And of course, once it gets more ingrained in society, then it's just going to be more easily accepted and whatever else. So number of merchants accepting ETC as a form of payment is up so far. So 1,177. And if you are a analytical person and like looking at charts like myself, you can kind of see this right here. This is nice constant growth, and I have brought this up in the past. So definitely ETC, even though it's not really done too much as far as the price over the last little bit, this is nice growth. And when it comes down to it, I always like to look at liquidity. Who has been buying, or like who has been selling, and whatever else. So you can kind of look right here. So this shows the liquidation, shows whether it is shorts closing or longs closing. So you can kind of see that there was a small squeeze on November the 8th, where it did have about $1.66 million worth of shorts close out the positions. And ETC has been and is still one of the most heavily shorted cryptocurrencies out there. So once again, it's something to consider, especially with a lot of the updates I'm going to share with you. It might actually have some justifying reasons for shorts to close out some of their positions. So stay tuned for that. But as of late, over the last several days, there hasn't really been much action whatsoever. So around $29.4 thousand in shorts closing out some of their positions. This is as of December the 1st. And then around 9,000 in longs closing out the positions. So obviously, because of that imbalance, obviously the stock price goes up. Pretty simple as that. And of course, I wanted to go over some things, one of which was this. So some of the latest data points from this last week were very optimistic, more specifically GDP. So GDP did come in a lot better than anticipated. Even PCE on Thursday, even though it did come in line with the forecast for PCE, still does show that inflation is at least getting where it needs to be on the Fed level, because ETC is a very good hedge against inflation, but not so much with interest rates. So that's been one of the damning things that ETC has been kind of stuck with. But in my opinion, a lot of positive data points have been coming out showing a lot of strength, which will indicate that more people will be cycling out of equities into cryptocurrency. I could be wrong. I'm not a financial advisor. You guys always do your own due diligence. I did want to play this. It's a couple minutes. It just talks on ETFs, but they do talk on, I guess, the possibility for Ethereum Classic and whatever else. Well, to be fully fair, they don't actually bring up Ethereum Classic per se, but they do talk on the possibility of other coins. So I'm just going to play this. Let me know your thoughts on
Craig,
that.
thank you so much for sitting down with me today. We're coming up to the end of the year, and we have a lot of tailwinds going into 2024. Obviously, one of the biggest catalysts for the crypto market over the last few months has been around the ETF, and you are such a key player at Grayscale in that narrative. Give me an update on, we know that you've been meeting with the SEC and hearing a lot more about their engagement with the industry. Give me an update.
Absolutely. So it's great to be here with you tonight at the Blockchain Association Policy Summit in DC. Following our lawsuit victory back in August, where a DC Circuit Court panel 3 judges agreed with our case that if the commission is okay with Bitcoin futures, then they should be treating spot Bitcoin ETFs the same. We've seen very good progress on the SEC front ourselves as well as other applicants. So right now, we're back in front of Trading and Markets. That's a division at the SEC that reviews the Form 19B4 application that would uplist our product, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, GBTC, onto the New York Stock Exchange. So seeing a lot of good engagement there. Also on the corporation finance side of the SEC, who reviews disclosures, we filed something called an S3, which is what would register GBTC under the 33 Act. That's one of the other requirements in order for it to operate as an ETF. Seeing really good progress there. We filed an initial filing and have since filed an amendment to that, just updating disclosures based on comments we got from corporation finance. So a lot of good constructive engagement from the SEC. We feel really good about spot Bitcoin ETFs happening. It's a matter of when at this point, not a matter of if anymore.
Yeah, it really does seem like, I don't know that it's fully priced in or anything, but there seems to be a lot of confidence that it is a matter of when and not if. We hear a lot about Ether ETFs now, and several funds have come out, saying that they've got applications in to launch an Ether ETF when, things are in place to allow that. What are the prospects, as you see it, for ETFs around other crypto assets, like Solana, for example?
Yeah, so I think with Ethereum, at this point in time, you have very similar facts and circumstances as it relates to ETFs as you do for Bitcoin. We now have CME traded Ethereum futures. That is a regulated and surveilled market for Ethereum. And that really has shown to be one of the key thresholds in order to get the commission comfortable with an ETF product. We now have ETH futures ETFs that started trading in the US. That was back in October. And actually on that very same day when that product started trading, we filed to convert our other product, Grayscale Ethereum Trust, ETHE, into a spot Ethereum ETF. The reason why we did that is because our view, like it was for Bitcoin.
So yeah, ultimately, this is very good for crypto as a whole, and through that, Ethereum Classic will be able to benefit. There's just going to be so much more liquidity coming into cryptocurrencies. So like I said, just a lot of broader optimism based on some of the data points. People's risk tolerance will start to increase and people will go back to cryptocurrencies. And similar to this is very good updates and for crypto as a whole, and through that, Ethereum Classic will definitely prevail. My own opinion, as I said. But let's talk on the data points and the technicals and all the other fun jazz. So right now I'm looking at the 1-day chart. I do have the 7, 25, and 100-day moving averages. I have the Bollinger Band as well, stochastic RSI, and momentum. So momentum, you can kind of tell it is increasing. That shows number of retail investors are getting in. So it kind of matches with what I mentioned about the lower volume, just big money isn't getting and causing ETC to go up higher. It is more specifically retail. So that's kind of a positive thing. Looking on the actual chart, there's a lot going on right now. So you can kind of tell it does want to break out. Keep in mind, I'm looking at the 1-day chart. So that typically does give a viewpoint for the next about 2 to 3 weeks. And so when it comes down to looking at the 1-day chart, you kind of have to couple in looking at this. So some of the fib levels with it at $19.20, it is trading between this P and the R1. So 1907 is something that you really want it to hold and hopefully bounce off of. That's going to be the next strong support. And then 2103 is going to be the next strong resistance. Fairly wide of a gap, and this is why you typically do get a lot of volatile days with ETC, but I do feel, given the nature and the positivity in the market, that 21 will be easily achievable, at least in the short term. But I'm going to go over some of the other kind of points to watch for. So stochastic RSI right now is fairly neutral, but you do see a nice bullish sentiment. So the purple line above the teal. But as I've indicated on previous videos, you can't just look at the 1-day chart. You have to look at the 4-hour, the 1-hour, and what is feeding into each other. So looking at the 4-hour right now, you can kind of tell it does want to break out. It's been bouncing off of this short-term resistance point. So right now it's kind of overheated. So it does need to pull back, at least looking at the 4-hour, because stochastic RSI is very high, so it is considered overbought. So it does need to pull back down and consolidate kind of around here, which in general is very healthy. Nothing wrong with that. So I do feel a little bit more of a short-term pullback within the next day, because overall though, you always want to watch for, is it creating higher highs or lower lows? What is happening behind the scenes? So based on the technicals, I feel like it does need to pull back down a little bit, but once again, going back over to the 1 day, a lot of good things. So I feel like on the 1 day chart, so within the next around 2 to 3 weeks, you can easily see around this being touched, so the 2103. And then depending on some of the data points that's coming out, it could potentially test this 2223. I don't feel like there's sufficient amount to kind of get to this 24 unless there's a squeeze aspect, so unless some shorts are closing out some of their positions, as what happened around here, so beginning of November. But again, ETC, no matter what, a lot of my videos is just short-term stuff. If you believe in ETC or crypto as a whole, it's going to take time. It's going to take a very long time. And even myself, I have an average of $44. I haven't really averaged down. I'm just patiently waiting, because I do feel that ETC is going to do a lot of good things. You just don't know when, right? There's obviously a lot of crazy price predictions out there saying that it's going to go to around 1,300. I can't remember, 33,000. There's a lot of price predictions that have been thrown out there. I realistically see maybe by 2030 that ETC could be, I would say, probably around $300 to $400, but that's just my own price prediction. Obviously, just based on that, it's just the momentum, constant compounded growth, nothing really fundamental from that. Like I said, there's a lot of people out there that talks on the fundamental ecosystem and what is growing on ETC itself. So highly suggest in kind of researching those individuals as well. But if you like technicals and a lot of the broader updates, definitely subscribe. And yeah, with all that, I appreciate all of you watching. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying ETC? Have you just been holding like myself? What have you been doing? And one final thing I just wanted to share with you, there is a kick-ass promo right now with Moomoo. So you can just sign up for an account with Moomoo, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So take advantage of that. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, I appreciate all of you watching.